Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tilted Pod. I'm your host, Seth. Don't call me Jack Wilds, and I'm sitting here with the newest member of the Tilted team, Mac Daddy-O Irwin.
I like Mac Daddy-O. That's
Mac
really
Daddy.
great. What up, magic people on the internet? How you doing?
Oh, well, I'll answer for all of them. They're doing great. And so what's up, guys? It's been a long time since we've had an episode. But guess what? That's not going to be the case much longer. We are going to be back out on regular schedule. And so with that, I mean, that's all I got to say about it. We're going to jump right in to what we've been doing this week. Actually, no, first let's get to know Mac, and let's get to know me too. Mac, give me a brief history of tell the people who you are, lump sum as a Magic player.
Well, Magic is by far my favorite game. I'll start off with that.
That's important.
I've been playing since I was 7. I am currently 24 in August.
Nice. So what set was that when you first started?
7th edition.
7th. Okay, wow.
So it kind of lines up real well.
Had some breaks in there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, of course. And I didn't play seriously at all when I was a kid. I have been playing competitively for about the past 6 years. Breaks in there too. I think the biggest break was like 2 years. I took a break. Primarily play control. Recently, I've been playing a lot of aggro in the form of Red Black Hollow One. I really, really like that deck. Play FNMs most of the time. I go to the occasional big tournament, but I am looking to play bigger tournaments a lot more often.
Right, you're going to start grinding team style.
Yeah, for real.
Also pretty into Arena right now.
Yeah,
right?
super fun. Yeah, it's really great. I've really enjoyed it. It is kind of casual. Which hasn't really been my scene, but it's really nice because I'm super busy as a person, and you can really sit down and just grind a lot of games, and it's super fun.
Great, man. Great. We are extremely excited to have you on the cast. Extremely excited to have you as a new host and member of Team Tilted. And in case you guys have forgotten, my name is Seth Anderson. I go by Jack Wilds or Tilted Pod online. I am a MTG Arena now, and paper grinder. For the most part, I go through spells up and down. Mm-hmm. I've been playing since Urza Saga. I got competitive during M15. So I would say I started again during Innistrad and got competitive around M15. Yeah. So that's when I first started winning a couple of tournaments, actually understanding how real card interactions work.
And that's kind of a bummer too, because original Innistrad, man, that was that was the prime time for a standard
really
play.
Wish I wasn't just so casual then, but it was a blast then anyways, and if it wasn't for Innistrad, I probably wouldn't have even gotten back into Magic in the first place. Other than that, I also am a content creator. We've been doing Tilted Pod now for a year with a large break, but I am back making this stuff. You can check us out on our YouTube page, iTunes, anywhere you can find a podcast. So, what we normally do in this podcast, we're gonna have it's gonna be a little different than our old school schedule, but we're gonna start off the same. It's what we've been playing, what we've been doing this last week. Mac, what'd you play this weekend?
This weekend, I played Hollow One. I actually skipped FNM. I had some prior engagements with family stuff. This is the first FNM I've missed in a while. But I've been doing pretty consistently well with it. I get at least second every FNM pretty much. And then I've been playing a whole lot of Arena. Actually, like I said earlier, because it is so easy to fit it into my free time. And I'm not trying to plug Arena. I know some people may, dislike it because it's casual, but if you haven't played it, just give it a try. It's really fun. I like it because I can just sit down and play my favorite game when I don't have time to play my favorite game.
Right. Yeah. Completely agree there. I have currently been playing, the last weekend I've been playing a lot of Arena as well. Actually, Mac, you're the one who provided me with
hit you up with that code, dog.
Yeah, with a beta key. And I got on there and was getting crushed. And then they kind of came out with the whole you can actually pay to play now. So I invested like $50 total in it.
Yeah.
That's some drafts and some cards. And I was actually able to build quite a bit, like from that $50.
Yeah, it's not very difficult to grind cards, and just paying as opposed to playing paper Magic. Just $50 will get you pretty much anything you want to play.
Right. Which is really cool. Like you can get a bunch of cards for $50 and not, if that's what you want to spend your Mythic Wild cards on. But I have been playing specifically Dominaria drafts this weekend, having a lot of fun trying to draft those cards, trying to draft those cards, mind you. And it's been a lot of fun. And I think on this podcast in the future, and maybe some today, we have a lot of results to go over and some discussion about what new cards are doing to multiple formats. But I think in the future, we're going to talk about Arena regularly on this channel. I think it's a great gateway drug. I think it's going to be one of the best.
It'll get a lot of people into Magic.
I do. I think it's going to be one of the best things. I'm also think there's a lot of Magic players who might enjoy this more based on the whole one game form. It's casual.
Yeah, that idea that you can grind a bunch of games in a short amount of time.
But yeah, you can play a lot of games, and the ladder system is getting kind of cool. Like I'm getting pumped that I'm getting closer and closer to tier 1 gold.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to play. It's like, oh god, I got to get there.
Yeah,
I got to get up there.
And it's cool too, because if you don't find the time to make it to your FNM to draft Dominaria, like I hadn't been able to draft Dominaria in paper, but they had the Dominaria drafts on Arena, and I finally got to do it, and I really really like the set, and that was really fun to be able to do that.
I still prefer MTGO, so I don't want anybody to think that that's not the case. I really love MTGO. Sometimes MTGO can be toxic, but there's other times that it's just like you get your money back out of it a lot better. There's obviously nothing I can do about, but MTGO is just, I can't jump into, I guess you can jump into a league, but it's more time consuming as well. It is a more competitive, it is exactly like paper Magic.
Yeah. Then the fact that you have to do paper mechanics and click a whole bunch, that kind of thing in Arena isn't really a thing based off of the way they've designed the game, because a lot of it's really streamlined.
And you can just move quick.
Yeah.
So with that being said, with now that you know what we are and what we've been doing, let's get into some results, because I love results, man.
Yeah, dude, me too. I love big tournaments. I love watching people play high-end competitive Magic, and you really see a lot of really, really good players on the Grand Prix circuit and even the Star City circuit, so it's just super fun to look into.
So, we are typically an eternal podcast, like maybe a very modern-centric, because that is what is primarily played in this area. And I play a Legacy as much as possible, played on MTGO all the time, or I was playing on MTGO all the time. And because of Dominaria coming out, and because the way that Standard has changed, I've been super excited, actually. And I think Standard has become, I think it's a really difficult and rewarding format right now.
Yeah, it has a lot of high-end plays that you really have to think about.
Here's the deal: is when you play
interactive.
Yeah, when you play Standard now, it is interactive. That is a key word, and you get to play your cards.
Yeah,
right. So in Modern, sometimes there's just games you don't get to play cards.
Yeah, you just know that the game's over on turn 3.
Yeah,
or 4.
It didn't even matter. The game could have been over with one Thoughtseize, or one land. If you miss a land drop in Modern, sometimes that could be just the death of you. Yeah. It's too much. There's not that many games that are going back and forth and we're going to just slug it out. And in Standard, that kind of game
is almost every game.
Is always happening. Yeah. Even if you're two aggressive decks, you're really pitting it out against each other. And there's so many little plays and so many advantages to gain here. And the card pool's so much smaller than Modern and all these other things that your decks can be prepared for the field. But GP Birmingham happened this weekend, and we're going over the ocean. We're jumping the sea, and it turns out that a deck that no one had really talked about is the new best deck in Standard. Red-black aggro.
It has blown up.
What happened? Jeez. Okay, so everyone was talking about white-black vehicles, right? Mm-hmm. That was kind of the de facto deck after blue-white control or flash had kind of taken over. And we've seen all this, and everybody's talking about it. Jerry's talking about it. All the pros are like, white-black vehicles is so good. Well, apparently a bunch of these people like Martin Yuza, Seaman Nelson, and Matt Brown, tons of people
Yeah.
decided that no, I think it's red-black aggro. So the tournament was taken down by Simon Nielsen, and he was playing, of course, red-black aggro, defeating Leo Lahonen, playing blue-white control. Let's talk about this red-black aggro deck, because if we just talk about this one deck, we're going to talk about 5 of the top 8 cards.
Yeah, basically, exactly. You know what I think did it?
What's that?
Chain Whirler.
I think when people realized Chain Whirler's interaction with Soulscar Mage really, really helped out. I also think Walking Ballista, which is weird because they've cut down to 2, is still, they can now cut down because people aren't playing one toughness creatures anymore. But Walking Ballista has just been a house in standard for the. I don't know why, it just came out of nowhere. It's just a house. So we'll go over the deck list real quick. I'm gonna rattle it off, and then we're gonna go with Mac to tell us what he likes about it and what he doesn't like. Let's start off with 2 Walking Ballistas, 3 Soulscar Mage, 4 Scrap Heap Scrounger, the most played deck, card in this tournament, 4 Goblin Chain Whirler, 2 Pia Nalar, 2 Rekindling Phoenix, love that card right now.
So good. 2
Glorybringer, also love that card. 2 Chandra Torch of Defiance, 2 Karn Daddy himself, and I'm sorry, but this is my new favorite Karn. I honestly,
he's super good. He's like you can slot him into pretty much any deck you want to play, and he's going to consistently generate card value. And he's also a win con in the can too.
He's great. We're going to get real deep into him, I'm sure. 2 Magma Spray, 4 Abrade, which is very important in this Heart of Kirin meta. All of a sudden, 3 Unlicensed Disintegration, a card that really is so good, and I'm just amazed at how long it took people to start bringing it back.
Yeah.
3 Heart of Kirin, and
always solid.
Then we go into our lands. Our lands, we've got 1 Aether Hub, 4 Canyon Slough, 2 Cinder Barrens, 4 Dragon Skull Summit, 11 Mountains, 2 Spire of Industry, and 1 Swamp.
Yep.
This deck is primarily a red deck. I mean, this is basically red aggro.
Yeah, you
throwing in some big, some important cards, but you need that Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Yeah.
And Unlicensed Disintegration.
Yep. And then you have a lot of black cards on the sideboard.
The sideboard, we'll go over the black real quick. We got 3 Duresses, very good against the blue-white decks. 1 Doomfall, also good against the blue-white decks. It's good against a lot of decks, really. We've been playing it a lot on Arena and realizing that card's very powerful. Would you agree?
Yes.
A Heartless Pillage. This is an interesting card to me. I've been thinking about playing this on Arena as well. 3 mana, target opponent discards 2 cards. So that's kind of cool. Raid. If you attack with a creature this turn, create a colorless treasure artifact token. So it's a 2 mana, they discard 2. And you get a token.
Yeah, essentially. So it's really good in your control matchups because making control discard cards always feels good. And then it's also really good in your mirror too. Or honestly, I could see this card being good in every matchup.
It turns on Unlicensed Disintegration if you just need that extra. Treasure has. There's more than just the fact that it's mana. Treasure does give you some things. We've got a 3rd Chandra Torch of Defiance, a 3rd Karn, 1 Vraskas, 1 Angrath the Flame Chained. We have not seen this card in a while. Just in case you don't know what it is, because I honestly had to read it again. Angrath is 3, a black and a red, legendary planeswalker Angrath. It's such a metal name.
Yeah, it's really cool. I want my band to be Angrath.
Yeah, Angrath, the chain metal. Okay, so his +1, he's 4 loyalty starting out. His +1 is each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. That's fine. His -3 is basically a act of treason style effect.
Yep.
Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Let's see. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next instep if it has converted mana cost 3 or less.
So not only do you get to steal bash, but you also get to remove the creature.
If it is 3 or less.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you're stealing a Rekindling Phoenix, you're not going to get to sacrifice it. Glorybringer, a 3rd Glorybringer, and then Cut to Ribbons, which is a card that I really like and think should be played more. It's kind of the perfect card for this, like you got a nice 4 mana, kill something, and then whoa, what is happening? And then you have this X spell that can kind of just get you over the top.
Yeah.
What do you like about this deck, Mac? What don't you?
First off, I love the interaction between Soulscar Mage and Chain Whirler, like we said before. It's got a super solid beats plan, but it can also play the long game with Pia Nalar, Rekindling Phoenix, super hard to remove. Scrounger is a great all-over card. Walking Ballista, I believe, is the 7th most played card at this tournament. So it's obviously great. It interacts really well with a lot of your opponent's small creatures. Plus, it can ping the face and win the game. Heart of Kieran's super good. I think the land base got a huge boost, and this is all the 2-color land bases with the recent printing of the
Buddy Lands.
Yeah, the Buddy Lands. I couldn't remember what they were called, but Dragon Skull Summit, I'm sure, really pulled this deck together as far as being able to have that black splash, because when you're having to play a card like Chain Whirler that costs 3 red to cast, you really want your black to be on the side.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised they're even playing Cinder Barons. Mm-hmm. The come into enter the battlefield tap, just seems a lot worse. But we don't really have that many 1-drops, so it's understandable if you hit it. I would hate to hit it though as land number 3 or land number 4. I think that would be very frustrating.
I think I could see the deck out 2 Cinder Barons and up 2 more Aether Hubs.
Yeah, I could see 1 Aether Hub and another Spire even.
Oh, yeah, that could work
or
too.
Or even just maybe run a Swamp and a Mountain. I don't know. Obviously, this person just won a large GP, so
yeah.
I shouldn't be questioning.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would say, I could see, it seems a little, the tap lane kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
If you look at, let's see, in Matt Brown's list, who I think got 3rd place, he's playing more Walking Ballistas. He's also playing Bomat Couriers, but he is not playing the Cinder Barons, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, his deck is very similar. We can talk about a few differences as we kind of break it down.
Yeah, his is a bit more low to the ground.
His is a little bit more low to the ground. I kind of like this version because I still love Bomat Courier. He's got basically everything but 4 Bomat Couriers. He doesn't have the Rekindling Phoenix. He's got the 1 Glory Bringer, still 2 Chandra, 2 Karn, 4 Unlicensed Disintegration instead of 4 Abrade, and only 3 Abrades this time. Yep. He's got a Cut to Ribbons main.
Which I really like that.
And I like his, I do too. And I like his land count. I like his lands a little bit more, I think. The 4 Spire of Industries are a lot easier to facilitate when you're playing 3 Walking Ballistas and 4 Bomat Couriers, which also makes his Unlicensed Disintegration much better.
Yeah, and his sideboard is strikingly different also.
It actually is. Yeah, an Hour of Glory. This is a card we haven't seen in a while, but due to Arena, I forgot this card existed, but I really like it. It's an instant 3 and a black, exile target creature. If that creature was a god, its controller reveals his hand, and you can exile all cards with the same name from his hand.
Super good against Scarab God, super good against Hazaret.
It's really good, and it's also just an instant exile target creature. I mean, it's still doing a lot of the things that you want to do with a little bit of plus side.
Yeah, eats Rekindling Phoenixes.
And it only takes 1 black.
Yeah.
Instead
easily
of...
splashable.
Yeah. He's also playing this card that I haven't seen in any decks, not on Arena, which is the Eldest Reborn, which is a saga for 4 and a black. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each opponent discards a card. And then the third ability is put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. This is awesome because my Karn was stolen this morning from this card. Yes, I was so upset because I didn't read that it was planeswalker as well.
Yeah.
And I played my Karn when he made us discard a card. Played my Karn, he was able to destroy it with the 3 mana, the split card, Never Return.
Yep.
And then he reanimated my Karn and just beat me down with it.
Yeah, just ended the game. I think this is a Teferi hate card, honestly.
What?
The Eldest Reborn.
Yeah, that could be I mean, I think I just think it's a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little bit of everything. But being a red-black deck and then stealing somebody's Teferi would be really cool. The Mountain in the sideboard is kind of interesting. Chandra's Defeat seems like really
narrow.
Well, I think actually I was going to say it seems really good if you look at the top 8 of this because of how many red creatures and planeswalkers that there are going around right now. It seems like that can almost go up. A 1 mana kill your Chandra and get to loot, or 1 mana just kill any of these red creatures that we're talking about.
Yep.
Martin Yuza, who is one of my favorite players, he came in 4th with the same deck. His is also a little bit different. right? We're looking at 4 walking ballistas. His is like really 4 ofs. You know what I mean? No Karn, though.
Yeah.
So that was something that I don't like about his deck.
Yeah, I don't like that either because I think Karn's super good.
Yeah, but he's playing 4 walking ballistas, 4 scrap heap, the 4 chain whirler, 2 Pia, 4 rekindling phoenix, 2 glorybringer, 2 Chandra, 3 magma spray, 3 abrade, 4 unlicensed disintegration, and of course the 3 heart of Kieran. Again, he doesn't have the tap land, so Simon is the only one that I see that's playing those cinder barons.
Which I wonder what his thought process was for that.
He probably just wanted to make sure
that he had the black when he needed it.
Yeah. His 4 duress in the sideboard seems really good in this deck. The Release the Gremlins is a card that used to be in Mardu vehicles that I think that was huge. It was extremely important. And now I think we're gonna get back into that back and forth of like, are you bringing in your release? Do I board out my artifacts?
Well, I think it also gets even better now that Karn's really popular, because if someone goes on the Karn plan where they're making a bunch of artifacts and they're dropping his loyalty counters down, and then you just slam a Release the Gremlins, wipe their board, and then Karn is already like down to a small amount of counters.
Smash him with some of those things. All right, well, let's talk about red-black vehicles is definitely the type of deck I would be playing. I think I have most of these cards except for I don't have Rekindling Phoenix and I don't have the 2 Karns. Other than that, I have this entire deck and I really want to play it. And I will be getting those things as soon as possible. And this is a deck that I could see myself playing, not just because it is a deck that just did really well, because I definitely think it's got a target on its back now. It's just these are the type of decks I like, and it's what I played already. That's why I still have the cards.
Yeah, get your Karns, people.
I think Karn. I think we talked about it in a group text earlier. Do you think Karn will hit 100? I kind of do.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, if Baby Jace hit 100 in standard, Karn is even more playable in every single deck.
Yeah, and it's also seeing play in every format.
The only problem is it is going to be a larger set than what Jace was opened in. Origins was a smaller set, but I still feel like it's gotta be. It's just so there's so many of them. Let's talk about the second place deck real fast before we move on to the. We'll talk about any other interesting decks we see, but let's talk about the second place deck. Planeswalkers, I think, are the big, like the big message from Dominaria.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think sagas are really cool, and and Chain Whirler's cool, and there's a lot of things that are super cool about the set. But the Planeswalkers seem to be doing something that I haven't seen in a really long time. I've heard people compare Karn and Teferi both to Jason Modern. Yeah. Both saying like this is better than Jason Mind Sculptor. Jay's better than all. Teferi was also played in a modern tournament by Kazu Negri as a 2-of in Jeskai. Yeah. It's that good. Really good. So
I think the big thing is that you get to, with his +1, I think it is his +1. Yeah. You get to untap 2 lands.
No, that's huge. So you can hold up Essence Scatter. You can hold
+1 draw a card is already good.
Yeah.
But that you get to hold up counter spells, remand, whatever you want.
Yeah. So in this deck, we are looking at. We'll just go through the list real quick. 1 Gideon, 4 Teferi. There's no creatures in this deck. Nope. We're gonna beat you with Teferi, or maybe Gideon, but the Teferi most likely. Spells, we got 2 Syncopate, 3 Blink of an Eye, which is a card I kind of like right now.
I've been seeing a lot of it.
Yeah, 3 Essence Scatter. Really shocked, but whenever Essence Scatter is good in a format, it's super good.
Yeah, because you have something like 80% of the decks in the format are creature based.
Right. 2 Pull from Tomorrow, which is a card that I've heard being talked about a lot, but I hadn't seen it implemented. And I think it's the best card because when you're holding up that mana and they decide to try to make you play around, they're making you play around, then you can just pull and it doesn't matter. You didn't lose anything.
Great way to refill your hand.
Yep. I think that also is the Blink of an Eye whole idea. It's like I can just Blink of an Eye, one of their permanents for 4 mana, draw a card because they didn't play into my counter. 4 Disallow, great card. 3 Settle the Wreckage, very important card. 2 Fumigate, 1 Commit to Memory. For removal, we've got 3 Seal Away and 3 Cast Out, and then 2 Search for Tomorrow.
That removal package, just looking at 3 Settle the Wreckage and 2 Fumigate main board, just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's really hard to deal with. Because if you play around Settle, then you're just setting up to get fumigated, and they're just already Essence Scattering you on curve, and there's so many things.
Anytime a control player is not getting attacked is great.
Right.
When you get to time walk someone just because they don't want to play into your Settle the Wreckage, that the card without even playing it already has value.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to deal with. For your lands, we've got 2 Field of Ruin, 4 Glacial Fortress, 4 Irrigated Farmlands, 6 Island, 3 Meandering River, which the tap land makes more sense to me.
Yeah, because you're not really always casting on curve.
The Memorial to Genius, which I think is a great card for this. I mean, sacrifice Memorial to Genius, draw 2 cards for 5 mana. It's a tap blue land, and then 7 plains. So actually, yeah, 7 plains, 6 islands. Okay. 27 lands, it's a lot, but you have to be hitting your land drops in this deck. Just have to be. The sideboard, we've got Authority of the Council, Aether Meltdown, 3 Negate, 2 Spyglass, 1 Gideon, 4 History of Benalia, which I kind of like because you can kind of turn into this beatdown if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And this card will straight kill you fast.
And it's really hard to interact with because it's an enchantment.
Yeah, they'll get you good. Invoke the Divine, which is a common from Dominaria that has become, I think, it is just a card. If you play white, it's a very likely sideboard card. And then 1 extra Fumigate. I don't want to play against this deck ever, but if you like blue, white, and control, this is a great. I mean, this is a great blue white control list.
If I were to play standard right now, this 100% is what I would be playing.
Yeah, it looks very difficult to deal with.
I think when they got Seal Away, that completely changed the deck.
Yeah, Seal Away is a great card. Really, really great card. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Wait, are there any elephants in this? No, there's not. Dang it, I thought there was an elephant. Let's talk about the oddball, the black sheep, or the black and green cards. Green-black Constrictor is the only not red-black, blue-white deck in the top 8.
Yep.
And there is only actually one, I think, in the top, quite a few. There's 2 in the top 32 or something.
Yeah.
This deck is 4 Walking Ballista, 4 Llanowar Elves, 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner, 4 Winding Constrictor, 2 Rishkar, 4 Thrashing Brontodon, such a good card right now.
Yep.
3 Ravenous Chupacabra, 3 Verter Skierhulk, 1 Vraska Relic Seeker. Spells, we've got 4 Adventurous Impulse, which I think is really cool. We'll talk about that card in a second. 1 Blossoming Defense, 1 Fatal Push. Really has gone downhill in the standard lately.
Yep.
2 Vraska's Contempt. And then 23 lands, pretty much your standard, there's 4 Aether Hubs, but these are just the lands you would think.
I like that they're playing 2 If-Near Dead lands.
I do too. I think it's good just to have a couple more.
It's when you get a free removal spell just by having a card in your mana base that is an untapped black source. I think why not play it?
My opinion, I would never play this deck.
Probably not.
I don't like this deck at all.
The fact that there's only 2 in the top 32 makes me wonder: is it just not good? And these guys just had a good day, or does it take a special kind of player?
I think the deck is actually probably very good. I just think that there's other cooler things you could be doing right now, and this reminds me too much of a deck that was already being played.
Yeah.
But I do think the deck is good. I mean, there's not... Let's talk about the 4 ofs from Dominaria that we got. Adventurous Impulse is pretty cool. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, reveal a creature or land, and put that into your hand. So you've got a nice little... You've got mana fixing. You got, digging for your big creatures. Thrashing Brontodon. Let's talk about how good that is in a meta where you've got these powerful creatures that... so much removal is enchantment based.
Yeah, you got Cast Out. And
you've got all these artifact creatures that you want to kill. Mm-hmm. I mean, and not only that, you've got with a Llanowar Elves, you've got a 3/4 on 2 that is a beater. I mean, you can really get in there and put some pressure on it.
It gives you serious game around playing against, I'm surprised that we haven't seen any red-green decks. Back to, Arena for just a minute, because that's a pretty popular deck on there. I've seen Thrashing Brontodon have serious game when playing against Control. You have a Rekindling Phoenix out, you swing, they don't want to Seal Away it because you have a Brontodon on the board.
Yeah.
And then you just end step sack it or whatever. Plus you get a 3/4 beater. It's just a super solid card all around that gives you game against Walking Ballista. Now, Walking Ballista in its nature is hard to interact with, but it's nice that you can force the counters when you want them to. It puts you in control.
Yeah. I mean, I think this deck is actually probably pretty good. The sideboard has got a lot of interaction between a lot of things. I really like Livecrafter's Bestiary. I love Gonti. Gonti's probably not the best right now. If there was a whole bunch of green-black mirrors, I think it'd be really good. Liliana's Death Majesty, a Nissa Vital Force, and a Vraska Relic, a second Vraska Relic Seeker can be really good against those control decks where you just want to stick Planeswalkers.
Yep.
I think the deck's probably very good.
Yeah.
But it is a deck I just wouldn't want to play. There's
I think
too
it got
many
a pretty
cool things going on.
I think it got a pretty good boost with the Adventurous Impulse, because when you're playing a deck that has 28 creatures, you're almost never gonna miss.
Right. And lands. Yeah, you're not.
Oh yeah.
So it also went 8-1 in the standard PTQ this weekend, 7-2 and 6-3. So it's a deck that's showing up. I mean, it's not in the numbers we're seeing some of these other decks, but red black wasn't really showing up that much until right now. White black was what everybody was talking about, and then the only white black we see down here is in 14th. And then mono green was a deck everybody was talking about. That's 12th.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised that I didn't see any mono green stop me in the top 8, honestly, because I think that deck is super good. I like it a whole bunch. Out of all the decks, if I were to play in standard after control, I think I would probably pick up Stompy, because it just getting to play 5 forts on turn 2 just sounds like too much fun.
Right. Then thrown all the way down in 27th place, we finally see a copy of the Scarab God. That's real far down.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the card that just dominated standard for a while, and it's just not around. If you look at our top cards, Scrap Heap Scrounger with 80 copies, Chain Whirler with 76, Abrade with 74, Heart of Kieran 64. I mean, these are basically just built the deck yourself. Just look at these, throw all these together in one deck, and you've got it. It's pretty insane. It's a pretty crazy thing. I think that that was Birmingham. Now, that was the standard portion. We are going to talk quickly about the results of... Well, let's talk about the standard PTQ while we're on standard.
Okay.
Fast. Because the 9-0 list and the standard PTQ is the deck that everybody's been talking about. And it's white-black vehicles. And it's the deck that a lot of people think is just like... Well, they for sure thought it was the best deck in the format. And this deck is Toolcraft Exemplar, Walking Ballista, Knight of Malice, which is a great card.
Yep.
Scrap Heap Scrounger, Lyra Dawnbringer, also a stupid and very good card. Gideon of the Trials, Karn, 4 of them, 4 Fatal Pushes. Finally, we got Fatal Pushes again. 4 Hearts, 4 History of Benalia, 2 Cast Out, and then a whole bunch of lands. Your Isolated Chapels, your Concealed Courtyards, your If Near Deadlands. You got Doomfalls, Forsake the Worldlies, Angel of Sanctions, Fumigates in the sideboard. So you've got that. This feels like that very much that old. This feels like a vehicle list where it has this transformational sideboard where it goes to these big creatures and then like fumigates, and it just relies on cards and Gideon. Yeah, it just relies on Karns and Gideons to kind of win the game. I don't really like this deck either.
I like it because they're playing 3 Knight of Malice main board.
I do like Knight of Malice, but if red black is going to be the new thing, I don't think Knight of Malice is going to be that great.
True, but it does have first strike, which is okay.
Which is nice, but Chain Whirler also does.
Wipes it. And it because it's a 2-1, right?
No, it's a 2-2.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't matter because it with a, it's going to trump it all the time.
Yeah, just I think Chain Whirler is almost an oppressive card, really. I
think it's just going to warp the format because you can't play that. You can't play this go wide 1-1s game.
Yeah, you have to play cards that can handle a 3/3 first strike.
Yeah, and that's all right. That's fine. That's part of the thing. But it is still a 3/3 first striker with a large restriction of having to have 3 red on turn 3 if you want to cast it then.
I also am super on board with the History of Benalia decks. I like those a whole bunch.
Well, that's this white-black vehicles deck. Yeah. So to me, that's the card I just don't think is that good. I think it's a good card, but it's one of those cards, it will end the game quickly, but it's just one of those cards I don't like. I really like it out of the sideboard for certain decks.
Yeah.
Because I think it's cool that they can just turn into like, oh, wait, you took out your removal?
Yeah,
well, check out how I just like get you. But it also doesn't make sense because they're going to be bringing in enchantment removal.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a problem with sagas in general coming out of Dominaria is the fact that they stay on the board and have multiple effects over multiple turns that you can play around them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. There's also this red-white History of Benalia deck that's got Path to Metal, and it's got all these first strikers and hasters and all these things. And it's basically just red, a mono red, but it's got the history of Benalia, and then Path to Metal, which you might not even know what Path to Metal does, dear listeners, but it is a 1 red, 1 white legendary enchantment. It's one of the flip ones. When Path to Metal enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature that doesn't have First Strike, Double Strike, Vigilance, or Haste. And when you attack with at least 2 creatures that have either any of those, transform Path to Metal. Path to Metal becomes a land that taps for any color of mana. You can pay 2 and tap it, and it's called Mid-Sally Tower. It will deal 2 damage to each opponent, or you can pay 3 and tap it and choose a creature at random that attack this turn, destroy that creature. Pretty good.
Yeah, so it gives you a game plan to end the game, and it also gives you a little bit of control too, out of a land that also is boosting your mana base or accelerating your mana base, if you will. One thing I would have noticed looking over the results is energy is dead.
Yeah, energy's real low on the list. I mean, that's good. Everybody was ready for energy to go, I think. Energy is dead. And the other thing I noticed is the green-white deck that had just, I think, 9-0 to PTQ earlier, or the mocks, and was just like a super like Shalai, just beat down creature deck. Just a super simple. We didn't see that at all, and I was very surprised not to see a single version of that deck.
Well, I think they play a lot of 1 toughness creatures, right?
I think that might have been an issue.
So I think that is the problem. Is Chain Whirler is just totally shutting down their game.
And I think that's true. I think you're very right. Okay, let's move on to the second half of GP Birmingham, which was the legacy portion. And we know there's not a whole lot of legacy listeners out there, but we'll go over it quickly. But it's still it's one of the best formats ever, and it's definitely my favorite format. But a lot of people are upset with Deathrite Shaman. They think Grixis Delver might be a little out of control, but I think it's fine still. We're looking at this, and we're looking at number 1, Mono Red Prison won this tournament, and I hate this deck. But if you look at this deck, you also see 2 Karn, Scion, and Vugan, or Urza.
Yeah.
Right? And we're talking about how much is this card going for right now already?
I think it's like above 50, roughly.
Yeah, I think it's like $80.
Let me look at the price history super
$70
fast. Currently in paper, it is $68.47.
Okay. Yeah, so average. This card's getting to 100, I think.
Easily. If it's seeing play in every format and it's already at almost $70, it will hit.
Yeah, as soon as these packs are opened a little bit less, which we're already starting to get to the point where people aren't opening them all the time. Karn's gonna hit. I would guarantee 75 soon,
at least.
Okay, so anyways, this deck is 4 Goblin Rabble Masters, 4 Magus of the Moon, 4 Simian Spirit Guides, 1 Hazaret, which I do like that, 2 Pia and Kiran, 2 Chandra, 2 Karn, 4 Fiery Confluence, 4 Chalice of the Void, 4 Chrome Mox, 4 Ensnaring Bridge, 2 Trinisphere, 4 Blood Moon, and then a bunch of Soul Lands and Mountains.
Yep.
This is a stupid deck, and I hate it.
Any deck that gets to play Ancient Tomb is just going to be a bad time most of the time.
I like Ancient Tomb, but I hate decks that play 4 Blood Moons on top of it. This deck can turn 1 a Karn or a Chandra. This deck can turn 1 a Blood Moon or a Trinisphere. Then it can kill you with a Goblin Rabble Master, just making 1/1s the whole time, attacking through their own Ensnaring Bridge. They chalice on 1 very easily. Fiery Confluence can end the game quickly. Fiery Confluence is why I think this deck is okay.
Yeah.
Because they have main deck hate against so many things. So Fiery Confluence, if you don't know it, which is actually getting another reprint in the Commander anthologies.
Very nice.
They said that, okay, here we go. 2 and 2 red, choose 3, and you can do this. Fiery Confluence, choose 3, and you can choose 1 more than once. But it's got 3 modes. Fire Confluence deals 1 damage to each creature. It deals 2 damage to each opponent or destroy target artifact.
So you can essentially 3 each creature on the board, 6 your opponent, or destroy 3 target artifacts or any mixture of them.
Yes, 4 mana, which is nothing for this deck.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculous. It's how I've lost to this deck all the time. You'll think you're winning, or you think you're finally getting out of it and pulling ahead, and then they'll just blow everything up and kill you. I hate the deck, but it's a deck that's here to stay.
Now, I'll let you listeners at home know, I personally don't know very much about Legacy. So over the course of these Legacy results, I am going to ask Seth some questions. Why is this deck not playing the Dark Depths Blood Moon cheese.
No reason to.
It just does everything else good enough already.
Here's a big reason. Ensnaring Bridge. You can't tackle the 2020 through it. There's just no reason to do it. You also have to find a way to destroy your Blood Moon, which means you're going to have to play cards that aren't as good.
Gotcha.
You know, like it doesn't need it at all. In fact, it's the only way it loses to like lands or turbo depths is because of is like if they're able to do that. But Ensnaring Bridge can usually lock that game out too because now their enchantment removal is just pressured way too heavy.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you have a 2020.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got second and third are both Grixis Delver. Gregor Kowalski, who won with red green. Gregor Kowalski is the Polish player who won with red green Eldrazi, and he was the one who did well with it in the Pro Tour, and then he won the GP right after that. He's playing Grixis Delver. This is a very stock. I mean, these lists are almost they're as stock as can be. We don't even really have to go over them. You know, this list is playing a Bitter Blossom in the sideboard, which is pretty cool. You know, they're just very, very stock. I think they've all switched now to 3 Underground Seas and 2 Volcanic Islands.
Yep.
And Deathrite Shaman we're just seen as one of the best creatures / planeswalkers of all time. And it's so good. You know, this deck can handle anything. It can beat any deck. It's a great deck.
Two main board, True Name Nemesis is just like such a great game plan against pretty much everything.
Yeah. So in third was also Grixis Delver. In fourth, we have a deck that I've almost played multiple times. I love this deck. It's called Steel Stompy. It is basically it's legacy affinity, right?
Yeah,
so you've got 4 Walking Ballistas, 4 Arcbound Ravengers, 3 Revokers, 4 Steel Overseer, 4 Vault Scourge, 2 Etch Champion, 2 Lodestone Golem, 1 Phyrexian Metamorph, 4 Chalice of the Void, 3 Lotus Petals, 3 Mox Opals, 4 Thorn of Amethyst, 1 Jit, a bunch of dual lands, some Inventor's Fairs, a Karakas, some Factories, some Wastelands, and then in the sideboard, we got some Karns.
We got the Karns. And I think you were saying before that now, even more so than before, you're considering this deck because of Karn.
Oh, yeah. I think Karn's awesome in this deck. I think it's really cool because you can lock the game out and then just stick a Karn and, kill them.
Plus, it's just a super cool deck in general because you have this fast beats plan. With Steel Overseer, just like the classic Affinity kind of game plan. But then you also have this taxes aspect with Thorn, Chalice of the Void, Lodestone Golems.
Yeah.
And you just have all of the mana acceleration.
Yeah, I love this deck. And you never have to worry about color. This is like, I don't know. I really love Eldrazi Stompy, but this is one of those decks that's like right there that this might be the new best Chalice deck.
Yeah.
Well, the best Chalice deck right now is Mono Red Prison. It just is.
Yeah.
But this might be the new better than Stompy Chalice deck. And I'm not sure though, because we're not backing it up with 5/5s. We're backing it up with 1/1s. But the synergy between these 1/1s, works really well. Fifth, Dredge. Love seeing Dredge. Haven't seen Dredge in the top 8 in a long time. This is true Dredge with breakthroughs and Lion's Eye Diamonds.
Super fun.
What's crazy is I really wish I wouldn't have gotten rid of these. I got rid of my Lion's Eye Diamonds, so I cannot play Dredge anymore. And then they spiked to, it's like $1,000 for a playset now. I got rid of them for like $100 a piece. So that kind of stinks. That wasn't even that long ago. But, I probably wasn't going to play Dredge anytime soon anyways. But Dredge is really cool. If you've never watched Legacy Dredge play, it's one of the it's interesting. It's just fun to watch. It's a deck that can be very frustrating, but very cool to watch do what it does because it doesn't even play Magic.
Yeah, any deck that gets to play Icarid is a deck that's really fun.
And then rounding it out, we've got two check pile decks in 6th and 8th, and one more Grixis Delver deck. Well, let's talk about check pile for a while because check pile is for a little bit because check pile has kind of been on the out. But this is essentially a Deathrite Baleful Strix deck. The weird thing is this deck is not playing Leovold, right? So in 6th place, we're playing Kest, Ascendant Mage. So I have actually never seen this. I have heard talk about it.
I don't think I've ever even heard of this card.
It's a commander card. It's a legendary creature, human wizard, 1 in Grixis mana, flying, and it says, during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from sorcery card from your graveyard. basically gives all your cards flashback.
Very cool.
Once a turn, right?
Why would you not play this card? It's awesome. I guess because it costs 4 instead of 3.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a 3/4 flyer, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're playing Snapcasters already, Baleful Strix, Deathrite Shaman, Liliana the Last Hope, and 2 Jason Mind Sculptors. I love that Liliana the Last Hope has honestly become one of the better.
Yeah.
It's sometimes
we were
just
talking about that the other day,
Liliana.
that you like that one more than of the Veil.
Right now I do. And then you've got cards in your sideboard. Because Legacy, you get to play the most powerful spells of ever. Then this cast is really good because you're casting, your Fatal Push, your Lightning Bolt, your Preordains, your Thought Seizes, Diabolic Edict, Hymn to Torok again, Call Against Command, Force of Wills, everything. You've got all this stuff. You got a great sideboard playing because you're playing 4 colors, and Search for Azcanta.
Yeah, I was about to say I really like seeing that in a Legacy build.
And honestly, this is a Grixis deck, and I think that's why he's playing Leovold. But we're just splashing green for Deathrite Shaman, and it's so easy to do.
Yeah,
and because of that, because it's mostly Grixis, Wasteland is a card that they can actually still play 2 of, where most check pile decks cannot. So if you look down in the 8th place check pile deck, he's playing. Yuta Takahashi is playing the 2 Leovolds. This is more the
your traditional,
yeah. And you don't see any Wastelands in this deck. And this deck is really on the downfall. But 3 Call Against Command, that's another card, man. That card's just probably going to keep going up.
Super good. I love seeing him to Torok and any kind of actual deck list, having played what I would refer to as Poopy Pox for years in Legacy. I love him to Torok. It's one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, it's a great card. Well, that pretty much wraps up our Legacy scene. We're going to take this information that we have, and we're going to talk about a few things to wrap up the episode, like what we think, how we can use this information and move forward, maybe what we'd want to build, and how it pertains to us as playing primarily Modern, honestly. Yeah. So we can look at the results in both Legacy and Standard and start to identify cards and play patterns that could actually benefit us in Modern. And right now, I'm going to tell you, I think Modern is kind of in this weird place where it's a little bit boring, but I still love it. But it does feel kind of weird. I'm hoping that some of this Dominaria really shakes it up.
Well, it's at a point where everything is kind of doing the same thing that it's been doing, and I think Dominaria in particular has introduced some really interesting cards. Foremost being the new Karn, obviously is great. Seeing play in every format, like I said before. There are some affinity lists that are playing it in the sideboard.
A lot of affinity lists are playing it main.
A lot of main board lists. I also think that Cast Out, the 2-mana enchantment from Dominaria that it exiles an attacking creature. Does it say blocking too? I'd have to read it. But anyway, I think it's super good. I think it could see play absolutely in some of the control decks in Modern, because enchantments inherently in a format like Modern are hard to interact with. That's why sometimes Pillow Fort decks, the rogue ones, can just come in and sweep a tournament, or at least put up good results, not necessarily sweep the tournament. But enchantments are hard to interact with the same way. Not so much artifacts, because all your colors that are good at dealing with artifacts, like green, red primarily, don't always have the best answers in a relevant card to deal with enchantments. Foremost being like Ancient Grudge, of course, only destroys artifacts. You got K Command, very popular card, only destroys artifacts. So I think having that 2-mana enchantment removal spell that also has flash, hard to play around, hard to interact with, I think that's definitely going to be a staple. I'm looking forward to see if that actually comes to fruition and people start playing it. I would be interested in trying to play it. What else from the newer sets is going to impact the formats that we love?
I'm still not sure. I mean, I know, like we've already talked about, the powerful cards like Teferi and Karn. Karn, I definitely think will, because the problem with Modern is, even more so than Legacy, a 4-mana card needs to almost win you the game.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's not like that in Legacy as much. Like the way, because of force of will and because of the way you interact with your opponent, a lot of the times, I mean, yeah, you might die on turn 1, but a lot of the times you're going to be able to cast that 4-mana card.
Yeah, you've got game.
And you guys are going to be able to battle it out for a while. But in Modern, it's just so fast sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about let's just talk about the Modern metagame right now. We're looking at humans as number 1 with almost 7% of the meta. Affinity and Black Red Hollow One neck and neck. Black Red Hollow One is such a fast, powerful deck, as you know, you play it.
Yeah.
And then Affinity is the best game 1 deck I think there is. And now humans is just what I didn't even think was that good because Jund had come back, but now Jund doesn't even feel like they can play. Honestly, they don't even feel like they can play the Bloodbraid Elf anymore.
Yeah,
like they're starting to cut Bloodbraid Elves.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't win the game.
Well, I think because right when Bloodbraid Elf got unbanned, all the Jund players were like, "Oh, awesome, that's automatic 4 of." But in reality, I think having 4/4 drops is almost too high of a curve in a format like this. So I think 2, maybe 3 is where they want to be typically, because it's not always going to hit something relevant.
Right. I mean, yeah.
And it's hard because you get a 3/2 haste, but a 3/2 haste can't bash through Gurmag Anglers and Hollow Ones.
Right. I just don't know where we're at with it. You know, I don't know what's coming up next. I'm really surprised at how well humans is sticking around now, and I don't know. I look forward to seeing what new sets will bring to it, and I think that as much as I think Dominaria actually helped, made Standard really great, and it made Legacy, it brought some to the table for Legacy. Yeah. I don't know how, besides Karn and Teferi, I don't know if there's that much else we're gonna see. Yeah. Maybe if maybe some really fringe stuff, like a mono black deck adopts the Shade.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah. That card feels inherently old school.
Yeah, very old school. There's also that 5/6 flying Dijin that you can cast for 4 if you tap an artifact.
Yep.
I saw Zach Elsick did a new update with Blue Steel, and he was playing that card. It's a great card for that. I mean, 4-mana 5/6 flying is really good, and that you can ramp out very easily.
I also think a big thing with humans being popular is not only is it a super solid deck and it has really good game against everything pretty much, but they're always going to print humans.
Yeah, it's only going to keep getting better. Yeah. Or there maybe even not better. Maybe there'd be a point where you just don't even know what to play in.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to get to a point where they're going to print so many humans that you can tune it exactly the way you want. So I think it's a really good deck to get because it has this longevity. Because they're always going to print cards for it, so it's always going to be relevant.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's going to wrap us up for this episode of Tilted Pod. We still got a while before the Pro Tour to see if the pros can come up with anything else, but I think these decks are kind of sticking around.
See if there's anything spicy. I personally am rooting for Mono Green Stompy because I think that's
out.
Yeah, I think it's a super fun deck.
Very cool. Remember, you can hit us up on Twitter. Check us out on YouTube, or like and subscribe to us, whatever you can.
Hit that bell notification button, dog.
Notifications if you want to see it. We're gonna put out some videos of Arena actually soon. We're gonna get into that, and next week. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about Arena, if you want to talk about Modern, if you want to talk about Legacy, Standard, if you want to talk about anything, hit us up. And yeah, I think we out.
Later.